I was shelving books when I saw her die. Not metaphorically. I mean, I literally watched Mila Washington get hit by a delivery truck at the intersection of 3rd and Main, her body crumpling like discarded paper, blood pooling beneath her vibrant red hair. Then I blinked, and the vision vanished. The biography of Eleanor Roosevelt remained clutched in my trembling hands, and the hushed atmosphere of Salt Lake City Library enveloped me once more. These visions had started 3 months ago. Random, unpredictable glimpses of events yet to unfold, some mundane, others horrifying. This one felt different, more urgent, more personal, which was ridiculous because I'd never even met this woman with the flame-red hair. "Sarah? You okay?" My colleague Diane peered at me over her rhinestone reading glasses. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just tired," I lied, adjusting my cardigan. The library's aggressive air conditioning raised goosebumps along my arms despite the July heat outside. "I'm fine." But I wasn't fine. How could I be fine when my mind had become an unreliable oracle, showing me fragments of futures I couldn't control or understand? The doctors had found nothing wrong. No tumors, no seizures, no explanation for why a 34-year-old librarian had suddenly developed the world's least reliable psychic abilities. I finished my shift in a daze, the phantom scent of copper and asphalt lingering in my nostrils. Outside, summer rain had begun to fall, drumming against the library's glass facade, each drop catching the late afternoon light like tiny prisms. I unfurled my umbrella and stepped into the downpour. The weekend stretched before me, empty except for my usual routines: grocery shopping on Saturday morning, laundry in the afternoon, Sunday brunch with my sister if she wasn't too busy with her perfect husband and perfect children. The predictability had once been comforting. Now it felt like a prison. I was halfway home when I decided to take a detour. The Salt Lake City Animal Shelter was having an adoption event. I'd seen the flyers all week but had dismissed the idea. My apartment building allowed pets, but I'd always considered myself too busy, too structured for the chaos of animal ownership. The shelter smelled of disinfectant and wet dog fur. Volunteers in bright blue shirts guided prospective adopters through rows of hopeful animals. I wandered aimlessly, telling myself I was just looking, when a small 3-legged dog caught my eye. He was some kind of terrier mix, with intelligent eyes and an optimistic tail that wagged despite whatever tragedy had cost him a limb. "His name's Chance," said a volunteer. "Found him behind a dumpster last month." I knelt to offer my hand for sniffing, when someone else approached from the other side of the kennel. A woman with vibrant red hair crouched down, her fingers slipping through the chain link to scratch behind the dog's ears. My heart stopped. It was her, the woman from my vision. Alive and whole, wearing paint-splattered jeans and a vintage leather jacket despite the summer heat. A colorful tattoo sleeve adorned her left arm, disappearing beneath her tank top. "Hey, little guy," she murmured to the dog, her voice husky and warm. When she looked up and our eyes met, something electric passed between us. Her eyes were startlingly blue against her pale skin. "You want to adopt him?" she asked, a challenge in her voice. "I was just looking," I said automatically, though something in me rebelled against the lie. "That's what they all say." She smiled, revealing a slight gap between her front teeth that was inexplicably charming. "I'm Mila." "Sarah," I replied, my mouth dry. We both stood, the little dog looking between us expectantly. Rain continued to drum on the shelter's metal roof, creating a cocoon of white noise around our awkward introduction. "Well, Sarah," Mila said, "looks like we have a problem. Because I'm not just looking, and I think Chance here has already decided he belongs to both of us." I should have walked away, should have retreated to my ordered, predictable life. Instead, I heard myself say, maybe we could work something out. What I didn't tell her, couldn't tell her, was that, according to my vision, I had exactly 17 days to prevent her death. And I had absolutely no idea how I was going to do it. The vision came without warning 3 days later. I was cataloging new arrivals when suddenly I wasn't in the library anymore. Instead, I saw Mila spray painting a vibrant phoenix on an abandoned warehouse wall. Blue and red lights flashed, voices shouted warnings, and Mila turned to run but slipped on wet concrete. Her head struck the edge of a metal dumpster with a sickening crack. I gasped, dropping an expensive first edition onto the desk. My assistant glanced over with concern, but I waved her away, heart hammering against my ribs. This wasn't the same death I'd seen before, which meant what? That fate was flexible? That she had multiple appointments with death, and I was somehow supposed to prevent them all? We'd exchanged numbers at the shelter, working out a bizarre joint custody arrangement for Chance. Weekdays with me, weekends with her. It made no sense on paper, but the little three-legged dog had somehow charmed us both into this arrangement. I called her immediately, fingers trembling as I navigated my contacts. "Library lady," she answered on the third ring, her voice playful. Background noise suggested she was outdoors. "Missing our furry friend already? Where are you?" I demanded, skipping pleasantries. "Whoa, everything okay? You sound intense." I struggled to sound normal. "I was wondering if you wanted to grab coffee. Now, it's important." Silence stretched between us. "You know what? Sure, there's a place called Beans and Brews on 9th. 20 minutes?" The coffee shop was crowded with afternoon customers. The rich aroma of freshly ground beans mingled with the buttery scent of pastries. I spotted Mila immediately, her red hair like a beacon among the sea of business casual. She wore ripped black jeans and a faded band t-shirt, looking completely out of place among the professionals. "This is unexpected," she said as I slid into the seat across from her. "Not that I'm complaining. Chance is doing great, by the way. I didn't ask you here about the dog." I wrapped my hands around my mug, drawing courage from its warmth. "This is going to sound crazy, but please hear me out." I told her everything, the visions, the 2 different deaths I'd seen for her, my complete inability to control when they came or what they showed me. As I spoke, her expression shifted from amusement to concern to something unreadable. "So you're saying I'm going to die? Twice?" Her voice was flat. "No, I'm saying I've seen it happen 2 different ways, which means it can be changed, avoided." Mila leaned back, studying me with those intense blue eyes. "Oh, you know how this sounds, right?" "Completely insane. Yes." I pushed my glasses up my nose, a nervous habit. "But I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm asking you to be careful. Specifically, don't paint any warehouses for a while." She stiffened, and I knew I'd hit a nerve. "How did you know about the Phoenix design?" I saw it in my vision, red and gold, with blue flames at the edges. The color drained from her face. "What? That's a commission I just sketched yesterday. Nobody's seen it except me." For a moment, we just stared at each other across the table. The ambient chatter of the coffee shop seemed to fade away, leaving us in a bubble of impossible reality. "So what now?" she finally asked. "You're my personal guardian angel?" "I don't know. I just know I couldn't live with myself if something happened, and I hadn't warned you." She nodded slowly, then reached across the table. Her fingers brushed mine, sending an unexpected shiver up my arm. "Thank you for caring enough to risk sounding crazy." That weekend, we met to exchange chants at Liberty Park. The summer air hung heavy with the scent of freshly cut grass and food from nearby vendors. Mila arrived late, her clothes splattered with fresh paint, but not from illicit murals, she assured me. She'd taken a legitimate commission for a children's hospital. "Your warning," she admitted, watching Chance chase squirrels with his 3-legged gallop. And it made me think, maybe I don't need to risk arrest to make my art matter. Rain clouds gathered overhead as we walked, the air electric with approaching thunder. When the first drops fell, they came suddenly, a torrential downpour that had us running for shelter under a nearby gazebo. We arrived soaking wet, Chance shaking himself vigorously between us. "Your place is closer," Mila said, water dripping from her eyelashes. "Mind if I wait out the storm there?" I hesitated only briefly. My apartment was my sanctuary, meticulously organized, every book alphabetized, every surface dusted. Mila, with her chaotic energy and paint-stained fingers, was the antithesis of everything I'd built my life around. "Sure," I said, surprising myself. "It's just a few blocks." As we ran through the rain, Chance bounding ahead on his 3 legs, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was running toward something, not away from it. And when Mila's hand accidentally brushed against mine, warm despite the cold rain, I didn't pull away. The visions were getting worse, more frequent, more vivid, more disorienting. I was shelving books in the rare manuscript section when it hit me, Mila standing before a gallery wall, her artwork displayed prominently. pride on her face turning to horror as the sprinklers activated, water destroying her canvases. In the background, a shadowy figure slipped away, something metallic glinting in their hand. When I came back to myself, I was on the floor, a concerned patron kneeling beside me. I mumbled something about low blood sugar and escaped to the staff bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. The cool liquid against my skin anchored me to reality, but couldn't wash away what I'd seen. That evening, I called Mila. "I had another one," I said without preamble when she answered. "A vision?" Her voice lowered. "Oh, about me? Your art, in a gallery. Someone sabotages it." Silence stretched between us, punctuated by Chance's barking in the background. Finally she spoke, her voice tight with emotion. "Sarah, this is getting weird, because I just got off the phone with Elijah Hughes from the Salt Lake Contemporary. They want to feature my work." My breath caught. "When?" 3 months from now. September exhibition." She paused. "How could you possibly know that? They literally called me an hour ago." I had no answer that wouldn't sound insane. And I don't know. I just see things. 2 days later, Mila invited me to meet her friends at an underground art show. The venue was a converted warehouse, not unlike the one from my earlier vision, but legitimate, with proper permits and security. The space throbbed with electronic music, the walls covered in artwork ranging from traditional paintings to digital projections, to installations made from recycled materials. I felt painfully out of place in my cardigan and sensible shoes, clutching a plastic cup of cheap wine, while Mila introduced me to a blur of names and faces. They all seemed to share a visual language I couldn't comprehend, talking about negative space and juxtaposition and cultural commentary. "So, you're the library lady," said a tall woman with a shaved head and multiple facial piercings. "Wunsch Mila won't shut up about you." "Really?" I glanced at Mila, who suddenly became very interested in her drink. "Oh yeah. Sarah this, Sarah that. We're all dying to know what kind of spell you've cast on our resident rebel." Mila groaned. "Ignore Tessa, she thinks she's funny." Later, as we stood before a particularly confrontational piece, a mannequin covered in corporate logos and barbed wire, Mila leaned close to me. "Sorry if they're a bit much. Artists, you know. They're your friends. I like seeing this part of your world." She smiled, the colored lights playing across her features. "And when do I get to meet your friends?" The question caught me off guard. Did I have friends? Colleagues, certainly. Acquaintances from book clubs and professional organizations. But friends? I'm not very good at. "People," I admitted. "Could have fooled me." Her fingers brushed mine, a touch so light I might have imagined it. "You're doing fine with this person." The next morning, I woke to a text from Mila. "Elijah wants to meet. Coming to the gallery at 2, nervous as hell." I sent back what I hoped was an encouraging response, then spent my shift distracted, shelving novels in the biography section and earning concerned looks from my colleagues. By lunch, I'd made so many mistakes I decided to take the afternoon off, something I'd done perhaps 3 times in my entire career. I arrived at the Salt Lake Contemporary just as Mila was leaving, her face flushed with excitement. "Sarah, what are you doing here? I thought you might want moral support or celebratory coffee after." She launched herself at me, wrapping me in a hug that smelled of paint and something uniquely her. "You're not going to believe this. They're offering me a solo exhibition. Me! That's amazing," I said, genuinely thrilled for her despite the dread coiling in my stomach. "Tell me everything." Over coffee, she bubbled with plans and ideas, her hands gesturing wildly as she described the space, the theme, the pieces she would create. I watched her, memorizing the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled, how she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. "You know what's weird?" she said suddenly. "Oh, you predicted this." "Exactly this." "I didn't predict it, I saw it." "Whatever you want to call it." She reached across the table, taking my hand. "I'm starting to think you're my good luck charm, Sarah Baker." I didn't have the heart to tell her that what I'd seen wasn't the triumph, but what came after, the destruction, the sabotage. Instead, I turned my hand in hers, our fingers interlacing. "I'm really happy for you," I said, and meant it. When she leaned across the table and kissed me, A brief coffee-flavored moment that ended almost before I realized it had begun. I felt something shift inside me. A realignment of possibilities. And for the first time since the visions started, I wondered if they weren't a curse after all, but something else entirely. I can't control it, I confessed as we walked chance through Liberty Park. The evening air carried the scent of late summer flowers and distant barbecues. The visions come randomly, sometimes triggered by touching something, sometimes by nothing at all. Mila listened intently, her face illuminated by the park's pathway lights. We'd been circling this conversation for weeks, dancing around the reality of my strange ability. Tonight, after another vision had struck while I was at her studio, this time of a minor car accident that would happen to her friend Tessa, I'd finally decided to tell her everything. "And there's no pattern? No way to make them happen when you want?" she asked. I shook my head. "Believe me, I've tried. Meditation, concentration exercises, even those psychic development books that smell like patchouli and false promises." She laughed at that, the sound warming me more than my light jacket. "I bet those were hard for you to check out of your precious library." "I used my personal Amazon account, thank you very much. Some things are too embarrassing for the library hold shelf." We reached the pond where ducks floated serenely despite the late hour. Chance strained at his leash, fascinated by their movements. "So what was it like? The first time?" I hesitated. And it was my sister's wedding. I touched her bouquet and suddenly saw her husband kissing another woman. 6 months later, it happened exactly as I'd seen it. Damn, that's heavy. The worst part was knowing and not being able to stop it. I told her what I saw, but she thought I was jealous or making trouble. I kicked at a pebble on the path, when we didn't speak for months after the divorce. Mila was quiet for a moment. "And now you see things about me?" "Not just you, random things. The barista who would spill coffee on a customer, the car accident on 4th Street. But yes, lately, mostly you." "Why me?" The question hung between us, weighted with implications neither of us was ready to voice. I couldn't tell her that the visions had intensified since our kiss at the coffee shop, that my dreams were now filled with fragments of her future, some mundane, some intimate, some still frightening. "I don't know," I said instead. We walked in silence until reaching a secluded bench overlooking the water, the city lights reflected on the pond's surface, creating the illusion of stars beneath us as well as above. "Can I show you something?" Mila asked suddenly. "Of course. Not here. It's at my studio. My real studio, not the one I share with the collective." I checked my watch, nearly 10 p.m. "Now? Unless you turn into a pumpkin at midnight." She grinned, the gap between her front teeth visible in the dim light. Her real studio turned out to be a converted garage behind a Victorian house in the Avenues district. She unlocked 3 separate deadbolts before swinging the door open and flipping on the lights. I gasped. Unlike her shared workspace downtown, which was chaotic and paint-splattered, this space was almost reverential. Canvases lined the walls, but these weren't the provocative street art pieces she was known for. These were intimate, vulnerable portraits and abstract pieces in muted colors, expressing emotions too complex for words. "No one sees these," she said quietly, watching my face. "Not my friends, not galleries, not anyone." "They're beautiful," I whispered, moving slowly around the room. One canvas in particular caught my attention. A woman with her back turned, surrounded by books that seemed to be transforming into birds. The figure's posture was unmistakably mine. "Is that the day we met at the shelter?" I came home and couldn't get the image out of my head. The way you stood in that shaft of light, like you were halfway between worlds. I turned to her, words failing me. She stepped closer, her eyes searching mine for permission. When I didn't move away, she reached up, gently removing my glasses and setting them aside. "I've been wanting to do this properly since that day at the coffee shop," she murmured. This time when she kissed me, it wasn't brief or surprising. It was deliberate, her lips soft against mine, her hands cradling my face like I was something precious. I felt myself responding, arms circling her waist, drawing her closer. The kiss deepened, and with it came a cascade of images. Mila laughing in morning light, her hair spread across my pillow, Mila arguing passionately with a gallery owner, Mila crying in a hospital waiting room. The visions came so fast I couldn't separate them, couldn't process their meanings. I broke away, gasping. "What's wrong?" she asked, concern etching her features. "Nothing. Everything." I struggled to organize my thoughts. When I touch you, when we're close like this, I see so much. Too much. Instead of pulling away as I expected, she took my hand and placed it against her heart. "And see me. All of me. I'm not afraid." And there, in her private sanctuary, surrounded by the art she'd never shown anyone else, I stopped fighting the visions and surrendered to what was happening between us. Both the ordinary miracle of falling for someone and the extraordinary burden of glimpsing her future. The vision struck while I was helping Mila select pieces for her exhibition. One moment I was holding a canvas depicting an urban landscape fractured by blooming wildflowers, and the next I was watching flames consume it. The gallery was dark, after hours. A figure moved through the shadows, deliberately setting fire to Mila's centerpiece. Before the face became clear, the vision shifted to Mila discovering the destruction, her expression crumpling in devastation. I dropped the painting, barely catching it before it hit the floor. "Whoa, careful!" Mila steadied me with a hand on my elbow. "Another one?" Over the past 3 weeks, we'd fallen into a rhythm. She no longer questioned the validity of my visions, simply asked for details. And I'd stopped apologizing for them, accepting they were now part of our shared reality. "Someone's going to try to sabotage your exhibition," I said, setting the canvas carefully against the wall. "Fire, I think. At night, when the gallery's empty." Mila's face hardened. "Did you see who?" "No, just a shadow. But it felt personal. Like they knew exactly which pieces would hurt you most to lose." She paced the length of her studio, Chance watching her anxiously from his bed in the corner. "This is the biggest opportunity of my career. Who would want to destroy it?" "I don't know. But we have time to figure it out. The exhibition's still a month away." She stopped pacing and looked at me, her blue eyes intense. "You're sure about what you saw?" "The visions about you have all been accurate so far." I didn't mention that they were also becoming more frequent, more detailed. That sometimes I dreamed of moments so intimate I blushed remembering them upon waking. "Then we'll be ready." She picked up her phone. "I'm calling Elijah. The gallery needs better security." 2 days later, I met Elijah Hughes for the first time. He was waiting at the gallery when Mila brought me by to discuss security concerns. A tall man with silver-streaked dark hair and the kind of confident posture that commanded attention. His handshake was firm, his smile practiced. "So, you're the librarian Mila won't stop talking about," he said, his gaze assessing me with interest. "She tells me you have quite the intuition about art security." I glanced at Mila, who gave a slight shrug. She'd obviously created a more palatable explanation for my concerns than my girlfriend has psychic visions. "I've worked with rare manuscripts," I improvised. "Conservation and protection become second nature." "Well, I appreciate your concern. Mila's exhibition is important to us both." Something in the way he emphasized both made me uneasy. "I've already spoken with our security team about additional measures." As he led us through the gallery space, pointing out where Mila's pieces would be displayed, I noticed how his hand occasionally lingered on her shoulder or lower back. Each touch sent a spike of something unpleasant through me. Jealousy, perhaps, but also something more primal. Warning. "Elijah discovered me, you know," Mila explained later as we walked to my apartment. 5 years ago, he caught me painting a mural on an abandoned building his company had just purchased. Instead of calling the cops, he offered me my first legitimate commission. That was lucky. He's been my mentor ever since, introduced me to collectors, taught me the business side of art. She squeezed my hand. I wouldn't be having this exhibition without him. I wanted to share my unease, but what could I say? That I didn't like the way he looked at her? That his interest seemed possessive rather than professional? Without concrete evidence, it would sound like simple jealousy. That night, as we prepared dinner in my meticulously organized kitchen, Mila chopping vegetables with the same precision she applied to her brushwork, I tried to focus on the present, on the domesticity that had developed so naturally between us, on Chance snoring softly in the corner, his 3 legs twitching as he chased dream rabbits. "You're quiet tonight," Mila observed, sliding the cutting board's contents into a sizzling pan. "Just thinking about the exhibition." She came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist and resting her chin on my shoulder. "It's going to be fine. Thanks to your warning, we're taking precautions." I leaned back into her embrace, trying to believe it. But later, when she kissed me goodnight at my door, another vision flashed, brief but vivid. Elijah, looking through Mila's sketchbooks in her studio while she was absent, photographing pages with his phone. "What is it?" Mila asked, noticing my expression. I hesitated, then decided truth was better than protection. "I think Elijah might be using your work somehow. Taking photos of your sketches when you're not around?" Her hands dropped from my waist. "Fats, that's not possible. He wouldn't. I'm just telling you what I saw." "Well, you must have misinterpreted it." Her voice had an edge I hadn't heard before. "Elijah has his own successful career. He has no reason to steal from me." "Mila, I'm tired. I should go." She stepped back, creating distance between us. "I'll call you tomorrow." As I watched her walk away, Chance glancing back at me with confused eyes, I wondered if I'd made a mistake. If warning her about Elijah would cost me her trust. But the alternative, staying silent while someone betrayed her, wasn't something I could live with. Even if the betrayer was someone she believed in completely. Mila didn't call the next day, or the day after. Chance stayed with her, leaving my apartment feeling emptier than it had before they'd entered my life. I threw myself into work, reorganizing the library's special collections with a fervor that earned concerned glances from my colleagues. On the third day, I broke. Not because of the silence, I'd endured plenty of that in my life, but because of another vision. This one came as I was cataloging a collection of antique maps, my fingers tracing the yellowed paper of a 19th century rendering of Salt Lake City. Elijah stood in a sleek downtown apartment, speaking angrily into his phone. "She's becoming a problem," he said to someone. "The librarian knows too much." Then he opened his laptop, revealing side-by-side images, Mila's original sketches, and his own inspired works displayed in a prestigious New York gallery. When I came back to myself, I was gripping the edge of my desk so hard my knuckles had turned white. The map beneath my hands had crumpled slightly, and I smoothed it with trembling fingers, my mind racing. I needed proof, something concrete that Mila couldn't dismiss. After my shift, I did something completely out of character. I researched Elijah Hughes online, methodically documenting his exhibition history, critical reviews, and career trajectory. What I found confirmed my suspicions. His early work showed a distinctive style, architectural, precise, almost mathematical in its execution. But about 5 years ago, right when he discovered Mila, his work had shifted dramatically, became more organic, more emotionally resonant, more like hers. Critics had praised his evolution and a brave new direction. One review particularly stood out. One reads his has reinvented himself, infusing his technical precision with a raw emotional quality previously absent from his work. I printed everything, organized it chronologically in a folder, and headed to Mila's studio without calling first. When she didn't answer my knock, I used the key she'd given me weeks earlier. For chance emergencies," she'd said. The studio was empty except for Chance, who greeted me with enthusiastic three-legged hops. A half-finished canvas stood on her easel, and her work table was scattered with sketches for the exhibition. I was about to leave when I noticed something odd. Several sketchbooks were arranged too perfectly, too precisely aligned, nothing like Mila's usual creative chaos. Someone had been here, touching her things, and had tried to hide it. I was still standing there processing this when the door opened. Mila entered, stopping short when she saw me. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was cool, distant. "I needed to see you." I gestured to the folder under my arm. "And I have something to show you, about Elijah." Her expression hardened. "Oh, I can't believe you're still on this. Do you know how paranoid you sound? Just look at the evidence." "Evidence." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "From your visions?" "Sarah, I've been trying to be understanding, but this is too much. Elijah has been nothing but supportive of my career, while stealing your ideas." I stepped forward, opening the folder. "Look at his work before he met you. Then look at what came after. He's been using your creativity to revitalize his career." She shook her head, refusing to look at the printouts. "You don't understand the artistic process. Influence isn't theft. Mentorship means sharing ideas. This goes beyond influence. I was desperate now, hearing the pleading in my own voice. And it's not just your past work. He's planning something to sabotage your exhibition. Stop it! She slammed her hand on the table, sending pencils scattering. Chance whimpered, retreating to his bed. I know what this is really about. You're jealous of my relationship with Elijah. Relationship? The word hung between us, loaded with implication. Professional relationship, she clarified, but something flickered in her eyes. You've been isolated in your library for so long you don't understand how the art world works. How people collaborate and support each other. Is that what he tells you when he's touching your back? When he's looking at you like you're already his? The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Mila's face went blank, a sure sign I'd crossed a line. I think you should go, she said quietly. Mila, please. Now, Sarah. I left the folder on her table and walked out, chest tight with unshed tears. Chance followed me to the door, confused by the tension between his two humans, but Mila called him back. Outside, the late summer air was oppressively warm, the sky threatening rain that refused to fall. I made it 3 blocks before I had to stop, leaning against a building as the emotions I'd been suppressing finally broke through. I'd tried to protect her, and instead had pushed her away. My phone buzzed with a text. For a moment hope flared, but it was just my sister, checking if we were still on for Sunday brunch. I didn't reply, couldn't form words through the tightness in my throat. As I walked home alone, I wondered if this was the price of my gift, to see dangers clearly but be powerless to convince others they existed, to watch disasters unfold exactly as I'd foreseen, helpless to prevent them. 3 days of silence stretched into a week. I threw myself into work, staying late to catalog a new collection of first editions. My colleagues noticed the change, but knew better than to ask. Sarah, the reliable librarian, was back. No more mysterious afternoon absences, no more distracted shelving. Just the quiet, organized woman they'd always known. But at night, alone in my apartment, I couldn't escape thoughts of Mila, of Chance, of the life that had briefly seemed possible before my visions had ruined everything. The exhibition was 2 weeks away. According to the gallery's website, preparations were well underway. Mila's name featured prominently in the promotional materials, alongside a striking image of one of her murals. I traced her signature on my computer screen, remembering how her hands looked when she painted, confident, almost dancing across the canvas. On the 8th day, my phone rang during my lunch break. Unknown number. Hello? Sarah? It's Tessa, Mila's friend. My heart jumped. Is she okay? Physically, yeah. Tessa paused. Look, I don't know what happened between you two, but she's been impossible to be around, and something weird is going on with her work. I sat up straighter. What do you mean? She won't let anyone see her new pieces for the exhibition, not even me. And yesterday I overheard her arguing with Elijah, something about changes he wanted her to make. My stomach knotted. Changes to her work? Yeah. She was pissed. Said he was trying to make her stuff look more like his recent series. Tessa's voice lowered. Then I did some digging online, found some interesting similarities between her sketches from last year and his show in Chicago 3 months ago. Relief flooded through me. Someone else had noticed, and tried to tell her. Well, she's stubborn as hell, but I thought you should know, she left your folder open on her work table. The one with all the research about Elijah. I caught her looking at it last night. Hope flickered, fragile but persistent. Thanks for telling me. Don't thank me yet, just fix this, whatever it is. She misses you, even if she won't admit it. Tessa hung up before I could respond. That evening, I did something I'd never attempted before. I sat cross-legged on my living room floor, surrounded by candles I'd purchased from a new age shop downtown. The owner had promised they would enhance psychic abilities, which seemed like nonsense, but I was desperate enough to try anything. I closed my eyes, focusing on Mila, on her red hair catching sunlight, on her laugh, on the way she looked at her paintings, head tilted slightly as if listening to them. I thought about Elijah, about the exhibition, about the danger I'd sensed. Show me, I whispered to the empty room. Please, just show me what I need to see. Nothing happened. No visions, no insights, just the sound of my own breathing and distant traffic outside. After an hour, I gave up, blowing out the candles and feeling foolish for thinking I could control this unpredictable ability. I was brushing my teeth when it finally came, not in a disorienting flash, but slowly, like a film coming into focus. Elijah in the gallery after hours, carefully removing the backing from one of Mila's canvases. Slipping something inside, a small device with a blinking light. Moving to the next piece, and the next. When the vision cleared, I knew exactly what he was planning. Not fire, as I'd first seen, but water. The gallery's sprinkler system, triggered by those devices, would destroy her water-soluble paintings while leaving the space itself undamaged. Insurance would cover the gallery's losses, but Mila's reputation would suffer a devastating blow. I checked the time, 11:30 p.m. The exhibition installation would be complete by now. The gallery closed until the opening in 10 days. If Elijah was going to plant those devices, it would be soon. Tonight, possibly. Without allowing myself to second-guess, I grabbed my keys and phone, rushing out into the night. The gallery was across town, at least 20 minutes by car. I didn't have a car. The last bus had already gone. I called for a rideshare, pacing anxiously as I waited. The driver must have sensed my urgency because he didn't attempt conversation during the ride. I kept checking my phone, debating whether to call Mila. What if she didn't believe me? What if she warned Elijah? What if I was too late? The gallery was dark when we arrived, its modern glass facade reflecting the streetlights. I paid the driver and approached cautiously, uncertain of my next move. Breaking in wasn't an option. The security system would immediately alert the police. As I stood there, paralyzed by indecision, a familiar figure rounded the corner. Mila, clutching a set of keys, her expression determined. She stopped short when she saw me. "Sarah? What are you doing here?" "I had another vision," I said simply. "Elijah." "Tonight?" She studied my face, conflict evident in her eyes. Then, without a word, she held up the gallery keys. "I found something in his office," she said quietly. "Sketches. My sketches with his signature, dated before I even created them." She took a deep breath. "I think you might be right about him." Relief washed through me. "We need to get inside, now." "Why? What did you see?" "He's planning to destroy your exhibition, make it look like an accident." I stepped closer, taking her hand. "I know you're still angry with me, but please, trust me one more time." She hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Let's go catch a thief." The gallery's silence enveloped us as Mila disabled the alarm system. Moonlight filtered through the skylights, casting her artwork in ethereal blue glow. Her newest pieces, vibrant urban landscapes fracturing into abstract emotion, lined the main exhibition space, waiting for their public debut. "They're beautiful," I whispered, genuinely awed despite our tense mission. "Thanks." Her voice was soft, vulnerable in a way I hadn't heard since our argument. "Son, I was thinking of you when I painted that one." She pointed to a canvas where library books transformed into birds taking flight. Before I could respond, a noise from the back office froze us both. Mila's hand found mine in the darkness, squeezing tight. We pressed ourselves against the wall, listening. "Hez here," I mouthed. Mila nodded, pulling out her phone. "I'm calling security." "Wait," I touched her arm. "We need proof, otherwise it's just our word against his." She hesitated, then nodded again, putting her phone away. We crept toward the sound, staying in the shadows between displays. Through the office doorway, we could see Elijah hunched over a desk, sorting through what looked like small electronic devices. "The sprinkler triggers," I whispered. "Oh, just like in my vision." Mila's face hardened with betrayal. She reached for her phone again, this time activating the camera. We watched as Elijah moved into the exhibition space, approaching the first painting. With practiced efficiency, he began loosening the frame. "Now," I whispered. Mila stepped forward, phone recording. "What exactly are you doing to my artwork, Elijah?" He spun around, the device still in his hand. For a moment, genuine shock registered on his face before smoothing into practiced charm. "Mila, and Sarah, isn't it? I'm just doing some final adjustments before the opening." "At midnight? With unauthorized electronic devices?" Mila's voice was steady, but I could feel her trembling beside me. "It's not what it looks like." "Really? Because it looks like you're planning to destroy my exhibition." She stepped closer, camera still recording. Just like you've been stealing my ideas for years. His expression darkened. You ungrateful little. He caught himself, forcing a laugh. This is absurd. I made you. Without me, you'd still be painting illegal murals and running from cops. You didn't make me, you used me. Mila's voice was steel. I have proof. The dated sketches in your office. The devices in your hand. Your sudden artistic evolution that mysteriously coincided with seeing my private work. Elijah's charm evaporated completely. No one will believe you. I have connections you can't even imagine. They'll believe this. She held up her phone. And they'll believe the gallery's security footage. His eyes darted to the ceiling, noticing the cameras for the first time. The device slipped from his fingers, clattering to the floor. It's over, Elijah, I said quietly. What happened next unfolded with surreal speed. Elijah lunged for Mila's phone. I moved without thinking, stepping between them. His momentum carried us both backward into a display pedestal. Pain exploded in my temple as I hit the floor, vision blurring. I heard Mila scream my name, then the sound of running footsteps. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Sarah? Sarah, look at me. Mila's face swam into focus above me, her eyes wide with concern. I'd stay awake, okay? Help is coming. Did he get away? My voice sounded strange to my own ears. No. Security caught him at the door. She brushed hair from my forehead, her touch gentle. When you were right. About everything. I'm sorry I pushed so hard. Made you angry. I'm the one who should apologize. I didn't want to see what was happening. She pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. You literally took a hit for me and my art. Worth it, I mumbled, attempting a smile despite the throbbing pain. The next hours passed in a blur of paramedics, police statements, and harsh hospital lighting. Mild concussion, the doctor said. Nothing serious, but someone should stay with me for the next 24 hours. Mila volunteered without hesitation. 2 days later, the story broke in the local arts section. An prominent gallery owner arrested for attempted sabotage and intellectual theft. Mila's exhibition would proceed as planned, now with the added intrigue of the scandal. Advance ticket sales had already doubled. The librarian who sees the future, Mila said, reading from the article as we sat in my apartment. Chance dozed between us on the couch, his 3 legs twitching in dreams. That's what they're calling you in the art community. I winced. Turned great. More attention. You saved my career, my work. She set the paper aside, turning to face me. But more than that, you made me see something I'd been blind to for years. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. The intensity in her eyes made my heart race. I'd had visions of this moment, many variations of it, but none captured the actual feeling of sitting here with her, knowing we'd faced something significant together and emerged stronger. I think I'm falling in love with you, she said suddenly. And that terrifies me more than anything Elijah could have done. The confession hung between us, raw and honest. I reached for her hand, intertwining our fingers. I don't need psychic abilities to know how I feel about you, I said softly. But the visions show me something important, possibilities. Different paths our lives could take. And what do they show you about us? I hesitated, remembering flashes of shared mornings, arguments over where books belonged, Mila painting while I read aloud to her. Ordinary moments made extraordinary by their simple existence. They show me that I'm afraid too, I admitted. Afraid of how much I want those possibilities to become real. The day after Mila's exhibition opening, I didn't go to work. For the first time in my career, I called in sick without actually being ill. Instead, I sat in my apartment, surrounded by the familiar comfort of my books, trying to make sense of what had happened the night before. The exhibition had been a triumph. Critics praised Mila's work as revolutionary and emotionally transcendent. Collectors had competed for her pieces, driving prices well beyond the gallery's estimates. And through it all, Mila had kept me by her side, introducing me as Inotin woman who saved my art and my heart to anyone who would listen. It should have been perfect. But when a reporter had thrust a microphone in my face, asking about my psychic abilities and my role in exposing Elijah, panic had overwhelmed me. I'd mumbled something incoherent and fled to the bathroom, where Mila had found me 10 minutes later, hyperventilating among the designer hand towels. "I can't do this," I'd told her. "When attention, the questions. This isn't me." She'd held me, promised to shield me from further interviews, but the damage was done. I'd seen the disappointment in her eyes when I'd asked to go home early, alone. Now, as morning light filtered through my curtains, I stared at my phone. No messages from Mila, no missed calls, just silence and the growing certainty that I'd ruined everything. Chance whined from his bed, sensing my distress. I'd kept him last night, needing his comforting presence. "I messed up, buddy," I told him, scratching behind his ears, and got scared. A vision flickered at the edges of my consciousness. Mila standing in her studio, staring at a blank canvas, tears streaming down her face. The image was so vivid, it physically hurt, like a shard of glass in my chest. I'd been having these flashes more frequently since the gallery confrontation. Clearer, more controlled, as if my ability was evolving, responding to my emotional connection with Mila. My phone rang, startling me. My sister's name flashed on the screen. "Hey," I answered, trying to sound normal. "I saw the news," she said without preamble. "And my little sister, the psychic hero of the art world." I winced. "Please don't." "Sarah, this is amazing. Why didn't you tell me about your girlfriend, or about what's been happening with your abilities?" The question hung between us, weighted with our complicated history. The last time I'd told her about a vision, her husband's infidelity, she hadn't believed me, hadn't spoken to me for months afterward. "I didn't think you'd believe me," I said finally. "And you didn't before." Silence stretched across the line. Then, softly, "I should have. I'm sorry." The simple apology broke something open inside me. Tears I'd been holding back spilled over. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Of what's happening to me. Of how much I care about her. Of losing control of my life." "Oh, Sarah." My sister's voice softened. "That's just called being human. Psychic or not." After we hung up, I sat with her words. Being human. Messy, unpredictable, vulnerable. Everything I'd spent years avoiding in my carefully ordered existence. I grabbed my keys and Chance's leash. We needed air, space to think. The morning was crisp with early autumn, leaves just beginning to turn. We walked to Liberty Park, where Mila and I had first established our dog-sharing arrangement what felt like lifetimes ago. I was so lost in thought I almost missed her, sitting on our usual bench, sketchbook open on her lap, red hair catching the sunlight. Chance spotted her first, pulling excitedly at his leash until I released him. He bounded toward her, three-legged gait somehow more graceful than most dogs with four. She looked up, surprise registering on her face as Chance reached her, then a cautious smile as she saw me following. "I thought you might be here," she said as I approached, though I didn't need psychic powers to guess it. I sat beside her, leaving careful space between us. "I'm sorry about last night, for leaving early. You don't need to apologize for being overwhelmed." She closed her sketchbook. "'Tis is all new territory. For both of us." "I had a vision this morning," I said. "One of you crying in your studio." Her eyes widened slightly. "That happened about 2 hours ago. I'm starting to think these visions aren't random. They show me what I need to see, when I need to see it." I took a deep breath. "And right now, they're showing me how much I'm hurting you by pulling away." "Sarah, let me finish, please." I turned to face her fully. "All my life, I've chosen safety. Predictability. Even after the visions started, I tried to fit them into neat categories, to control the uncontrollable. Then you came along with your chaos and your color and your three-legged dog, and suddenly safety wasn't enough anymore." She reached for my hand, and I let her take it. "I don't know what happens next," I continued. "The visions show possibilities, not certainties. But I do know I don't want to hide anymore, from the world, from my abilities, or from how I feel about you." Mila's smile was like sunrise breaking through clouds. "That sounds suspiciously like a beginning, not an ending." "Maybe it is." I leaned forward, pressing my forehead to hers, a beginning I never saw coming despite everything. She laughed softly, her breath warm against my lips. "When a psychic blindsided by love. There's irony for you." As she kissed me, there in the park where our story had started, no visions came. No flashes of future possibilities or dangers to avoid, just the present moment, vivid and real and enough. Some futures, it seemed, were better discovered the old-fashioned way, one day at a time.